Okay, what's going on, guys? Let's go over the weekly tactics now. I know what you're thinking. What's with a delay? It's Monday now. Champs is basically going to be over in a few hours' time. Well, you're quite right. But to be honest, I wasn't comfortable releasing the tactics as early that yet, as I just wanted to do a bit more testing. The biggest issue that you're going to find with these kind of this setup is that you're going to need multiple positions. Okay, so for example, as I mentioned to you, the best formation to defend is the 4-3-3. Now, we are taking this off a 4-2-3-1. So with a 4-2-3-1, you have two CDMs, and then you have the cam, and then you have the left wing and right wing. So in effect, if you wanted to use some variation of a 4-3-3, this would actually be the best defensive option. Let's say to close the game out, something like this where you defend like this. I think the wingers are still very important. So you can distribute to them the ball to them in a wide channels, to the player locks down the wing, or the L1 triangles, or even if you're good enough, the precision lob passes, they're perfect as an escape strategy. And then we have advanced forward, but you can also put false nine here. With this tactic, you can make it overly defensive. I still prefer to have someone up front. At least I can pass the ball to them. I got Philogene, guy is absolute beast. He's very good at dribbling. And then we have the two CDMs on holding defend. You can put one of them on the deep line playmaker if you have a pass of the ball here. But you can see, look, Rashford obviously doesn't play here. But this is what I'm trying to say in this system. For them all to play, it can be a bit difficult because I will need a player that can play a cam, left wing, right wing, and center mid. Now, if you've done some of those Evo chains very early on, you'll be lucky. Unfortunately, even with some crazy Evo chains that I have, I still can't even play those players in those multiple roles. So that would be the first issue, is trying to find that player. Just to give you a bit of an insight, if you can find that player, you're laughing, but I was just going to give you a quick example of what I mean. This is why I'm saying in the next couple of weeks or so, with all these Evos coming out, you do a more of a sender. But let's say I tried to find a player here, and let's say they can play, let's just say in theory, center mid, cam, CDM, basically almost no one, okay? Unless you have an evolution. And for this, there's only a handful of players. There's not that many, or a handful of meta players anyway, that can play those. Buffon might be one of the few only players that's cheap enough that you can buy that can play that role. So for them to all have the roles, it can be difficult. But that would be one to close the game. That's the code, as you can see over there. Do you want to get better at FC25? Now, before you skip ahead, what if I told you if you joined my FC school and you didn't get better after 1 month, I'll refund your money? I can say this because I've been running my FC school for many, many years, and thousands of students join and even stay on. We go over complete in-depth gameplay tutorials showing you both the theory of something and the gameplay examples using real-life examples in a structured format that's like a course. The videos are on a systematic learning system, teaching you everything from the core mechanics, the basics, to the meta, so you can get better as a whole, with explanations that go beyond the scope of my YouTube channel. FC School has already started with every single tactical layout, focuses, meta cards, and learn the meta before it even becomes the meta. So come join thousands of others in a mature audience community for those looking to get better at FC25, patreon.com/NealGuides, or click the link down below. Now, when you join, we already have a library of hundreds of videos, more than my YouTube channel, in fact, with new videos on FC25 getting constantly added, so you'll never run out of content. The biggest mistake people do is they spend thousands of dollars on FP points every year, thinking this will make them better, but it won't. But now it's time for you to make that change. Don't forget, if you don't get better after 1 month, just send me a message and I'll refund your money. That's the NealGuides guarantee. Links down below in the description, patreon.com/NealGuides. Then we have the second one. Now, I think the 4-3-3 with the CDM is good because, you're not going too aggressive. I think, especially with one box to box, you're not going too gung-ho. We've got this. You can always reduce the depth if you want to. We put counter there because you need those centimeters to make those runs. But yeah, you could play it like this. You could even use inside forwards. You kind of have that bit of that. The good thing is, because the base is there, you kind of have that freedom. So, this could basically be a very, very good system. And you have that one CDM. To be honest, what might be advisable is even going to a 4-1-4-1. So that's the code for this one. But I'm just going to show you some more variation. As I said, it's all about you guys learning, right? So I'm just going to show you, look, you could even use a 4-5-1 or 4-1-4-1, because the left mid and the right mids are pretty much more defensive than left wings and right wings. And if you want to, you can put wide midfield on them to make them even more defensive, wide midfield defense. So actually, you do have quite a lot of variation if you even have the 4-2-3 on wide. So you can see a lot of the 4-3-3s, they share similar characteristics. If we go here to the 4-2-3-1, don't copy this code. This is just a sample random one I just added in. But this 4-2-1-3, for example, you can see progressively how you make that improvement. So if you are going to play a system like this, it will depend on what players you have. Some of you may need to play a 4-5-1. In my opinion, I think this, along with maybe two other formations, are the best defensive formations inside the game, because you have a center mid. You have three midfielders on holding. You should not be conceding, at least not against someone who's on the same level as you. Unless you're making terrible mistakes, which I'll be honest, it doesn't matter what tactics I give you. Running out with your center back or running away doing something silly, you're always going to concede. It doesn't matter what. So this would be like a very defensive formation once to close the game out. So if you love the 4-3-3s, the 4-2-3-1s, because this is basically here a 4-2. People don't understand it, but this is basically a 4-2-1-3. The only difference is instead of a cam, you have a center mid, sits more reserved, and you can put holding on that player. Then you can see here we've got a 4-3-3. We've got one CDM and two center mid. So you're still packing out the middle. So this would be maybe one. Let's say you're up against someone who exclusively likes to use Travellas or finesse shot in the middle areas, and you really want to pack out those middle areas, but you need three players as opposed to two, and maybe you don't want to be that defensive. This could be a very good system. And then, for example, you can move to here, a 4-2-1-3. And then remember I said to you that the formation that I released on Friday, that is the 4-3-3 attack. So the real difference between these two formations, so let's just say, for example, we adjust this. Let's be honest, everyone's going to be using inside forward. As I mentioned, you can use inside forward roaming. And let's say you did something like this, which is a bit on the conservative side, but still pretty decent enough. Let's say you did something like this. The idea is they will basically be identical. The only differences is the center mids being CDMs and center mids. So if you want to be very defensive, you have a formation. So I would say, look, at the very least, if you have a 4-2-1-3 setup, you ideally want this formation. It's most definitely more attacking than, I think it's more attacking than a 4-2-1-3. We know that with a CDM sitting higher. So if you're just sitting here, you're like, you know what, Neil, this is actually a very good idea. But you know what, as you said previously, I can't get a player that can play in all these positions, but I definitely can get CDMs that can play center mids. Then this is the way to go. At least at the bare minimum, have something like this with two formations, because the only difference here is the CDMs. When they sit higher, it's going to help you be more aggressive. If you can fill in the gaps, then you would want to go to something like this one here, like this. So let's say, for example, this is how I would do the setup. So let's say, for example, I needed, in theory, and hopefully I will draw this out so you can understand. So let's say you needed a defensive formation, a balanced formation, an attacking formation, and then an ultra attacking formation. So this will be the 4-4-2 press. The benefit is if you have a cam that can play both left mid and right mid as well, like I have Rashford, you got a good system there. Then here you could use the 4-3-3 fourth variation. Then here you would use something like you could even use a 4-3-3, but let's just say for example's sake, you could use a 4-2-1-3, and then your ultra defensive formation would be this one if you can fit it in. So the 4-3-3 defend, I think it's 2 if I'm not mistaken. So that is basically how you'd want to set up. So you'd want, for example, you would want the 2 CDMs in the 4-3-3 defend. Then you would want, for example, a 4-2-3-1. Then you'd want the 4-3-3 fourth variation. Again, the center mid's only being the difference. And that way you're progressively becoming more attacking. And then you'll use a 4-4-2 for ultra attacking. And let's be honest, the 4-4-2 still, let's be honest, one of the top, I think it's top 3 formations. But there, look, automatically in this system, you already have 2 of the best formations inside the game, just in those tactics. And then basically you have one that's basically a bit more attacking than a 4-2-1-3, but still has a left wing and right wing. And then you have a CDM variation. So this is how you create those expertise tactics. Is that once you have to create that system where you progressively go forward, because sometimes inside the game, I'll give it, this will really come to light maybe when you go up to the higher division. Let's say you're not making mistakes in the elite division. You may find someone who's just very good with their CDMs, or they sit very, very high, or they sit deep, and you need to adjust that. And that is why switching like this can change everything on the fly. The only issue that I have with this is finding players. So if you're watching this and you're like, you know what, I still can't find the players, then don't sweat it. As long as you have at least one, I would say try to get at least 2 CDMs, because then what you could do is, for example, you could always go to like a system like this and sub on a center mid if you really want to. At least there's players that can play center mid and cam. So that would be the best solution right now. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you want to get better FC, come to my Patreon series, patreon.com/NealGuides. Don't go above the 1 month. We will refund your money. It's a NealGuides guarantee. Thanks for watching. Hope this kind of helps. A bit more of an education type video. Sorry for the delay as well. I was just doing some testing. I was trying to figure out what players can play where, but apart from Buffon and a few other players, there isn't that many options. So this one, you might have to fine tune this for yourself. So see what players you have, see who you can fit in. And let's say, for example, you can't, you could always go to, for example, a 4-2-3-1, which would be a more conservative version of this because you have left. Well, it depends how you look at it, but you have left mids and right mids on a 4-2-3-1 wide, exact same system, and left mid and right mids are more defensive. So technically speaking, you could even do, for example, a 4-3-3 defend, and then you could have a 4-2-1-3. Let's just say hypothetically speaking, and then you have here instead of going to so then you have a 4-2-3-1 wide with two center mids. So two center mids, two CDMs, left mid and right mid. Then you can go here to the 4-2-1-3. And then after that, you can go either to the 4-4-2 straight, or you can go to my 4-3-3 fourth variation. So as you can see, incrementally, do you see how this changes? So you got here, let's say this is the one with the CDMs, right? So you got two CDMs here. You got two CDMs. This one here, you have two CDMs again, but this way you have a cam instead of a center mid. So you've been a bit more attacking. Then here you have a left wing and a right wing, which is becoming more attacking than left mid and right mid. So these are basically identical formations. This a lot of people just don't understand. It's not one formation that's really matters. Yeah, one can stand out because it's more balanced, but everything has a specific use case. And then you go to this system where you have center mids instead of CDMs. So the idea is this is the best tip I can give you. Whatever system you choose, even if you just choose one formation, have a progressive system. There's so many times in the game you want to be slightly more attacking, but you don't want to change the system. This is the perfect thing to do. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope this helped. Catch you next time. Peace.